The night was heavy with silence, broken only by the occasional creak of the house settling. I found myself alone at home, my family away for the weekend. At first, I relished the solitude, the chance to have the entire house to myself. But as darkness fell and the hours stretched on, a sense of unease began to settle over me. I decided to distract myself with a movie, hoping that the glow of the screen and the sound of familiar voices would chase away the creeping shadows. In the corners of my vision, I curled up on the couch, the soft light flickering across the room. But every now and then, I thought I saw something move out of the corner of my eye, a fleeting shadow. A hint of movement that vanished when I turned to look as the movie played on. The sounds of the house seemed to amplify. The creak of the floorboards sounded like footsteps. Distant whispers seemed to murmur just beyond my hearing. And the gentle tap-tap-tap of a branch against the window felt like an ominous warning. I tried to convince myself that it was just my imagination, that being home alone always played tricks on the mind. But then, from the hallway, I heard a soft, unmistakable creak of footstep. My heart leapt into my throat as I strained my ears, listening for any other sounds. The house seemed to hold its breath, and I held mine. With a trembling hand, I muted the TV, plunging the room into an unsettling silence. And then, I heard it again, a whisper. Faint and indistinct, my pulse quickened, and a cold sweat broke out on my forehead. I felt trapped, cornered by the unknown, every shadow taking on a sinister form. I debated calling someone, my parents, a friend, anyone who could provide a lifeline to the outside world. But a part of me hesitated. What if I was just being paranoid? What if there was a logical explanation for every sound? As I sat there, frozen in indecision, I heard another noise, this time unmistakable, the soft, deliberate creak of the front door. Panic surged through me, my mind racing to process the implications, my heart pounding. I grabbed my phone and crept towards the door, my fingers trembling as I dialed 911. The dispatcher's voice on the other end was a lifeline, a reassurance that I wasn't alone in the darkness. They assured me that help was on the way, that I should lock myself in a room and stay on the line. I retreated to the bathroom, my breaths shallow and rapid. As I listened to the sounds of the house, minutes stretched into eternity as I waited, the house shrouded in an oppressive stillness. And then, I heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps, deliberate and heavy, echoing through the hallway. My heart felt like it was going to burst from my chest. As I huddled in the bathroom, the phone pressed to my ear. The dispatcher's voice, my only connection to the outside world. When the police arrived, they found no intruder. No signs of forced entry, just a terrified individual, alone in a house that seemed to hold secrets. As I watched them search the premises, a sense of relief washed over me. But it was tinged with a lingering unease. That night, I learned that being home alone isn't just about the absence of company, it's about the presence of shadows, of sounds that take on a life of their own. And the realization that the familiar can become the most terrifying when you're truly alone.
It was a quiet evening at the convenience store, the fluorescent lights casting a sterile glow over the aisles of snacks and essentials. I was manning the cash register, just like any other night, when the door chimed, signaling a new customer. I looked up and saw a figure shrouded in a long coat and a wide-brimmed hat. The person's face was obscured, the shadows hiding their features. An uneasy feeling settled in the pit of my stomach as they approached the counter, moving with a deliberate, almost unnatural grace. I mustered a polite smile, the kind I had practiced to perfection during my time as a cashier, and greeted them. The response was a low, raspy voice that sent a shiver down my spine. They ordered a few items, their eyes fixed on me with an intensity that made me squirm. As I scanned their items, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The air seemed to grow thicker, the silence pressing in around us. With each passing second, my discomfort deepened, and I struggled to maintain my professional demeanor. With the transaction complete, the figure handed me the money, their fingers brushing against mine for a fraction of a second. I fought to suppress a shudder as I handed back their change, my mind racing with 1,000 possibilities of who this person could be. Then, in a whisper that was almost a hiss, they asked a question that made my blood run cold. What do you fear most? The words hung in the air, pregnant with a malevolence that I couldn't ignore. I stammered, taken aback by the question, unsure of how to respond. But before I could gather my thoughts, they turned and walked away, disappearing into the aisles as if they were never there. I watched them go, a sense of dread settling over me like a heavy fog. With trembling hands, I resumed my duties, trying to dismiss the encounter as a bizarre interaction with a strange customer. Hours passed, and the store grew emptier. Just as I was starting to feel a semblance of normalcy, I heard a sound, a soft, almost imperceptible rustling. I glanced round, my heart pounding, my nerves on edge, and that's when I saw them, the figure from earlier, standing at the end of an aisle, their hat casting a shadow over their face. I felt like a prey being watched by a predator, trapped in a cage of fluorescent light and linoleum floors. I couldn't tear my gaze away from their unmoving form, the feeling of being studied intensifying with every passing second. Summoning all my courage, I forced myself to look away, focusing on my task of organizing the shelves. But as I worked, I could feel their presence moving closer, their footsteps soft but unmistakable. I tried to tell myself that it was all in my head, that I was letting my imagination run wild, but the unease persisted when I dared to steal another glance. They were standing right in front of me, their obscured face inches away. My heart raced, my breath catching in my throat, as I looked into their shadowy depths. And then, they whispered words that froze me in place, their voice like a dagger of ice. "Your fear is my delight." I felt a rush of panic, my instincts screaming at me to run, to escape this unsettling encounter. With adrenaline coursing through my veins, I bolted from behind the counter, racing towards the store's exit. The door chimed as I burst into the night, the cool air, a welcome relief from the stifling atmosphere inside. I didn't look back, my heart pounding as I fled into the darkness. It wasn't until I was safely in my car, driving away from the convenience store, that I allowed myself to breathe. The encounter with that eerie figure would forever be etched in my memory, a chilling reminder that sometimes the things we fear most can become all too real.